Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of Inspiring Energy Talks, an SGS Inspires podcast. My name is Lucky Nurafiatin. I am a market analyst for Asia Pacific, and I will be your host. In this episode, I have Mr. Jose Angel Olivero with me to discuss global biofuel mandates and the feedstock supplies to support those mandates. Mr. Olivero is currently holding a position as Sales Director of Lipido Santiga, also known as LIPSA. He received a degree in economics from the University of Seville in 1988 and a degree in food business management from International San Telmo in 2015. In the past 33 years, he has been involved in the oilseeds, oils, and fat business. Mr. Olivero has been the sales director at LIPSA since April 1996. Prior to join LIPSA, he worked in the sales department of Cargill, España from May 1989 to March 1996. Mr. Olivero has participated in many international events, both as panelist and speaker, and represents LIPSA in many international forums and associations. Those are including FEDIOL, AFEX, the Spanish Foundation of Sustainable Palm Oil, and the Roundtable on Sustainable Palm Oil. A little background on LIPSA. The company is family owned and was founded in 1969. It started processing oils and fats in 1973. The company owns two vegetable oil refineries with a combined processing capacity of more than 1 million tons per year and exporting its products to more than 40 countries across 5 continents. Hello, Mr. Olivero. Welcome to Inspiring Energy Talks. Happy New Year to you, and I hope you had a great time. First of
Yeah.
all, thank you for being here, despite I know you are so very busy.
Yeah. Hello, good morning or good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are located. Yeah, thank you very much, Lucky, for your invitation to this interview. I'm very happy to cooperate. Mm.
Thank you. With your first experience in vegetable oil and fats, I'm sure you are also familiar with the additional usage of vegetable oils from only as cooking oil in the past and feedstock for the oleochemical industry to
Yeah.
also as feedstock for fuel now, in this case to produce biodiesel. So looking at the biodiesel industry, biofuels industry as a whole, the commercial use of biofuels started before 2005. So depending on the country, some only did research and trials and then, kind of stopped short from the nationwide implementation. Some others continue with biofuels mandate in several states or provinces. Several countries are mandating the use of biofuels nationwide and even increasing the blend percentage over the time. I think most of us are familiar with the ethanol and biodiesel as the traditional biofuels.
Mhm.
At present, ethanol is mostly used by on-road transportation. So Brazil is leading with a 27.5% blending mandate. Other countries typically mandate up to 10% in with some higher ethanol blending up to 85% available on their market.
Mhm.
India is expecting to mandate E20 by 2025-2026, and the US government is trying to push E15. On the other hand, the use of biodiesel is open to all diesel engines, actually, those including non-road transport, construction engines, logistic equipment, agricultural equipment, up to the stationary diesel engines. Countries with fast domestic vegetable oil production, especially in Europe, in South America, and Asia, are currently leading the use of biodiesel. Um, while in some the same case is still applicable today, actually, some countries with very small vegetable oil industry or they are net vegetable oil importing countries. They are also implementing or introducing the use of biodiesel, albeit at a lower blending percentage compared with those with the fast vegetable oils production. And typically, all those countries using the waste or used cooking oil, or we call it also UCO, as feedstock. In the case of China and India, they use UCO mainly to alleviate such oils re-entering the food market. So biodiesel blending percentage ranges widely between countries. Some countries blend 2% up to 5 or 7%. Other countries blend up to 10%. High blend of 20% to 30% are used and introduced in several countries in Indonesia, in Malaysia, in Slovakia. It's also available in selected retailers in some countries in the US, in South Korea, and in Australia. So,
Mhm.
Mr. Olivero, I believe you attended the Indonesian Palm Oil Conference in Bali in October last year, right?
Yeah, yeah, correct.
I think I was about to attend but didn't. So I think you may already knew that Indonesia is currently leading the world on biodiesel mandate with about 30%
Yes,
blending in most diesel. I
correct.
said in most diesel because it involves automotive diesel, industrial diesel, diesel used in the domestic maritime industry. The only diesel that not or exempted from blending biodiesel are diesel used in the high mountainous area, premium diesel also exempted, as well as diesel used by the military. And then further, the government is planning to increase the blending mandate up to 35 and 40%. Actually, they announced a few weeks ago that in starting January they want to implement 35%, but then uh, they kind of afraid of the um, availability of CPO of crude palm oil, so it delay a bit, maybe by 1 month or two.
Mm-hmm.
So even though we know the mandate, we don't know yet when exactly the government will implement the 35%. Since Indonesia is currently the largest producer of palm oil, so what is your view on its biodiesel mandate and what is the implication of this mandate to the global palm oil trade?
Well, my view is that Indonesia will try to increase its mandate as much as the production and exports are
Mm-hmm,
unbalanced, and that is what they have recently done by increasing it to 35%
mm-hmm,
from the previous 30%. So they need that all expected surplus is converted into biodiesel to maintain
mm-hmm,
the price level high enough to keep the palm oil producers happy.
mm,
Also, the gas oil prices went up, or let's say the high gas oil prices that we experienced during the last year
mm-hmm,
also helped to increase the blending mandates.
mm.
So
Yeah.
now, very recently, the price of petroleum and gas oil went down. The prices
Mm-hmm,
are
mm-hmm,
relaxing, and let's see how these. Uh, what are the implications of this uh, price relaxing? But
mm-hmm,
they
mm-hmm.
will try to increase it to 35% or even to 40% in the future if they find they have sufficient stocks to do so.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, but is it how does it influence the global palm oil trade because they are exporting it, the CPO exports, right? Will
Yeah,
will it have a big impact on the global palm oil trade?
yeah, of course it will. Obviously, but it's just a mechanism they introduced to control the prices. So
Mhm.
whenever they see the prices going down because there is a lack of demand,
I see.
they will try to increase the blending mandate,
I see. I
because
see.
all the surplus they have is gonna be converted into biodiesel.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
obviously the production is going up. The production of palm oil in Indonesia, not that
mhm,
much in Malaysia, which is where is stagnated. But in
mhm.
Indonesia, is still increasing. But the global demand for food, I would say, is probably stagnating. eh?
Ah, I see. I see.
So there will be a surplus to be produced, and this surplus can only go to biodiesel, in my opinion. So
Ah.
this is a mechanism that the Indonesians have to control and make the prices of palm oil higher, so the producers are happier.
Mm, okay. Yeah, I think Indonesia used the biodiesel mandate as a cushion for the CPO price. I think that's what you mean, right?
Yeah, yeah, correct.
Yeah, yeah. So Indonesia's neighbor Malaysia, as you mentioned earlier, is also known as the second largest palm oil producers, right? Although the production volume is kind of a big gap between Indonesia and Malaysia as of now. Uh, but Malaysia's government also is working on B20 rollout since
Hmm.
2 years ago. It was kind of stop and go due to several reasons, but the government still plans for a complete switch from the current B10 to B20 by mid this year. So
Hmm.
once this plan is achieved, what do you think will happen? Because at the same time, Indonesia has B35 by mid this year, and then Malaysia has B20. Will that be um, influence the price of palm oil, and then after that influencing the price of others vegetable oil, maybe in the palm oil or global uh, oil trade?
Yeah, I mean, in Malaysia, the current mandate is B10, right, for
Yes,
transport, and B7 for industry nationwide. So B20 also
correct.
for transport has started in a few places like Sarawak or or Lawan, for instance.
Yes.
There is already a previous cabinet approval for B20 for transport,
Hmm.
and it's likely that Malaysia will soon move to B20 for transport nationwide once the new government settles down.
Yeah.
There is a plan to move to B30 by 2025, but we need to wait and see the new governmental direction. eh?
Hmm. Hmm.
Government direction. The problem is that both Malaysia and Indonesia, at the end, they both face problems to increase their palm oil sales, especially
Mm.
to territories like Europe. So
Yeah,
where the palm oil sales are falling, not only for biodiesel but also for food. So the only
I
way to
see.
maintain price levels and stocks sufficiently high price levels and stocks low enough is by increasing the
Hmm.
mandates. If you want
Okay.
to, again, as I said before, if you want to keep your farmers happy, you better increase their income, right? So how to do
Yes.
that
Yes.
with high prices, and how
Yeah.
to keep prices high when the consumption of palm oil for food is falling in some parts of the
Mm.
world, like Europe, by increasing mandates, biodiesel mandates. eh?
Yeah. Yeah.
However, we have to say that the impact in Malaysia is much lower than in Indonesia, obviously because of the
Ah,
production is much lower, and but also the local consumption is much lower in Malaysia.
I
So
see.
I mean, the biodiesel consumption in Malaysia, or the diesel consumption in Malaysia is much lower than in Indonesia. So the impact of any mandate increase in Malaysia is much lower than in Indonesia.
Ah, yeah. Yeah, true.
Mm.
In addition to palm oil, other vegetable oils such as, rapeseed oil, soybean oil, sunflower oil, coconut oil, and even peanut oil also can be used as biodiesel feedstock, right?
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in Europe and North America, rapeseed is more popular.
Yes. What is more popular in Europe, um, both for food and for biodiesel.
Mm,
More or
mm.
less two-thirds of the rapeseed oil consumption in Europe is going to biodiesel,
Ah,
only one
okay.
third to food. And in
Mm.
North America, well, you have Canada, where they produce canola,
Mm-hmm.
and more or less half of the crop is exported, half, the other half is crushed locally.
Okay.
So they produce, well, they produce less than in Europe, because they produce 20 million tons of seed,
Mm.
roughly. So
Mm-hmm.
10 million is exported, 10 million is crushed locally. So you have a production of 4 million tons,
Yeah.
which is much lower than Europe. Europe produces maybe double, 8 million
Ah,
tons. yeah,
Okay.
8 to 9 million tons, I would say. So yeah, it's popular, but also obviously in the US, soybean oil is very popular.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah, soybean also popular in South America as well, right? Soybean
Yes.
oil,
Yeah.
both. Yeah, yeah. And then I understand also Ukraine is also one of the major vegetable oil producers. So
Yeah.
with this ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine, almost 1 year actually, do you still see the effect of this conflict on the vegetable oil market, or the market kind of finding the new equilibrium already?
Well, the market always find an equilibrium because obviously the price the, always have an effect on supply and demand.
Mm.
So, as you know, the prices skyrocketed earlier last year. Well, I was going to say earlier this year, but obviously uh, in 2022, when the
Mm-hmm.
conflict, the war, I don't like to say conflict because it's not a conflict, it's actually a war. No?
Mm-hmm.
So, when the war started, obviously the prices skyrocketed because also at the same time, Indonesia made set up a ban to
Mm-hmm.
export palm oil.
Yeah.
So the market started with a big uncertainty. So
Mm-hmm.
the high uncertainty because of the war and also because of this Indonesian ban, so made the prices to go up tremendously. Once the uncertainty was lower because the ban was the ban was finished and by the Indonesian government, and also sunflower oil started to
Mm.
flow again from Ukraine step
Ah,
by step.
okay.
Uh, May, June, July, first by truck and rail, because
Mm.
initially the ports were closed.
With close,
So
yeah.
the prices started to fall down. Most of the oil was exported by truck or rail initially
Mm-hmm.
because they couldn't export by sea at the
Mm-hmm.
beginning of the
Mm-hmm.
war. So the volumes that before were exported to India and China,
Mm-hmm.
they stopped totally the purchases in Black Sea countries, in Ukraine and also Russia. And then all the export flooded Europe. All the
Ah.
oil flooded the European market. So the prices started to come down.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Also, we have to say that the worldwide oil consumption is not growing, in my opinion, for food.
Okay.
For
Yeah.
food, biodiesel is something different because it's mandatory and it
Mm.
depends on the country or country by country regulation. But yeah, I wouldn't say the oil consumption is going up. So because we are facing a recession
Mm-hmm.
worldwide. Um, at the same time, the production of soy, rapeseed, and palm is going up.
I see. I
So
see.
consequently, the prices are trending lower. That's
Yeah.
normal.
Yeah.
In Ukraine, also, I have to say that the crushers need to process the seeds and
Mm-hmm.
need to sell their stocks in the spot because they need
Mm.
the money. So they are not selling much forward. They're selling
Ah.
spot because there is a big uncertainty of what is going to happen. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of
Mm-hmm.
sunflower seed is also exported as well, as there are problems to crush the crop locally. Lack of
Ah.
energy, lack of electricity sometimes, so they need to export also seeds, which is
Okay.
not normally. Normally, they it's not normal.
Yeah.
They typically exported only
Oil.
oil and meal.
Oil and meal. Okay.
So
Yeah.
once they have cleaned up their stocks, not yet,
Mm.
by exporting the seed or the oil, I would say that if the next crop that is going to
Mm-hmm.
be planted soon in February, March,
Mm-hmm.
April is again low, and we could expect that is lower than normal again,
Mm-hmm.
like it was in 22, 23,
Mm-hmm.
we had a crop of 10 million tons. Then, if we have a second consecutive low crop in Ukraine, then we could see higher prices, in my opinion.
Higher prices again. Yeah. So it's kind of it looks like in a wave, right?
Also, we have to watch up the La Nina and El Nino weather phenomenon, because now we are
Ah,
having a very long La Nina.
mm-hmm.
um, that will make still one more year of high palm oil
Drought.
production in
Okay.
Malaysia and Indonesia. However, we have to say that despite La Nina for 2 years,
Uh-huh.
we are not seeing very high yields in Indonesia, Malaysia. Basically, the crop, the increase in production is coming
Mm.
from higher acreage
Yeah.
that is coming into production in especially in Indonesia.
Mm-hmm.
So, in my opinion, once La Nina is over, it will be over one day. Everybody is talking that probably very soon, probably
Mm-hmm.
in 1 quarter or two. Then the production will stagnate, in my opinion, and we will probably see higher prices of palm because of maybe starting to have a lower yields and lower production
Well,
in Indonesia.
production.
Maybe
Yeah.
not in 2023, but in maybe in 2024 if we have a Nino weather phenomenon coming in by the end of 2023 or
Mm.
beginning of 2024.
Yeah.
So
So,
in the future,
yeah.
maybe we see higher prices of palm if La Nina ends up more or less soon, and we start to see signs of El Nino coming in.
Mm. So that will, if that happens in the few years, then it typically will change again, kind of biodiesel mandate in Indonesia and Malaysia probably because it really, like you mentioned earlier, it really, like making a cushion for the price. Basically, that's what uh, the reason of the biodiesel mandate, I can say.
Yes.
Um, yeah, so in addition to the virgin vegetable oils, more countries are now producing biodiesel from UCO, used cooking oil, or
Mm-hmm.
other waste from palm oil industry.
Yeah.
Speaking about UCO, are you familiar with the UCO trade?
Yes, we are,
Mm.
because we are processing a lot of fuel in one of our factories for the biodiesel
Okay.
sector. Yeah.
Okay. And you see, the UCO trade is gaining momentum primarily now because more countries do not want biodiesel produced from the virgin vegetable oils, right? Various reasons, including indirect land use change, biodiversity, and greenhouse gas emission reductions.
Mm-hmm.
But UCO supply primarily depends on the consumption of virgin vegetable oils by the food industry.
Mm-hmm.
How much
Correct.
is the percentage of these oils by the consumed by the food industry actually? That to understand the volume of UCO outside.
Well, it's very it varies. It varies depending on the country,
Ah,
because it's not the obviously probably the most developed countries or most developed territories like Europe or US. The UCO collection is more efficient.
mm-hmm,
Then you
mm-hmm,
can see a more percentage of the oil usage being collected as UCO.
mm-hmm,
Also, it depends on the habits of the population. Some countries have more habit of frying, the frying habit.
mm, yeah,
People. Then it also depends on whether you fry vegetables or you fry animal products, no, like fish
mm,
or meat, right? Then it's very very different from one country or from territory to territory, and also the habit of collection is not the same in Europe as in Africa. Let's say, for instance, no, in Africa
ah,
you don't have you wouldn't have many machuco,
mm,
or in maybe Latin America, but in the US or in Europe or in Malaysia, Indonesia, there is more the habit of collecting it.
frying, yeah, yeah. So coming to that, I think based on what you see in the market, which country or region actually supply most UCO?
Yeah, well,
You,
basically, everybody knows that it's China. It's
yeah,
China, and then also Indonesia, Malaysia are providing a lot. Also, they buy also, or they have their own UCO
mm,
collection, but also they receive UCO from several other countries of the region.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So they are the main, obviously, apart from Europe itself or
Yeah.
America itself, no? But I would say Asia is the main supplier.
Ah, okay. I think within Asia itself, China is the main supplier for now, right?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, um, do you think the UCO supply will be sufficient to meet demand from the industry, especially when I think you are aware that maritime industry and the aviation sector, they are also looking into UCO for their biofuels feedstock.
Mm. Well, we believe that there is no sufficient UCO in the world to produce the
Mm,
amount that the world needs of for road transport, sustainable
mm,
aviation, and maritime fuel. Especially because these last two, this aviation sector and maritime sector, they don't want to use fishing oils, no,
yeah, yeah,
because of image, basically. So
exactly, yeah.
it will be very difficult. Right, sustainable aviation is just taking off.
Mm-hmm,
So in the next few years, we will see a lot more and more and more sustainable aviation fuel, and maritime fuel is also coming, especially in
mm-hmm,
Europe, which is
mm-hmm,
setting up soon a minimum mandate of 2% for 2025.
mm-hmm,
In my opinion, the demand will be much higher than availability, and there
mm.
will be a supply constraint, or maybe prices will will go
Yeah,
very high.
yeah. Actually, I heard from my contact in the maritime sector a few months back that the price of UCO somehow it was more expensive than virgin vegetable oil in a few months back. So I don't know, is it true
Yeah,
from your experience?
it is sometimes. It depends on, obviously, on whether you compare it with the with palm price or with the soybean, rapeseed, or sunflower price. Obviously,
Mm,
we all know that the palm oil is has a big discount versus the other
mm,
oils.
mm.
So, but yes, it is sometimes more expensive, and it will be much more in the future,
I
as the
see.
appetite from the petroleum industry will be massive and supply
Mm,
will be lower than demand.
mm,
So also you have to take into account that demand in Europe is very high now because of obviously there are mm, mandatory incorporation of advanced feedstocks like
mm-hmm.
UCO, for instance, and
Yeah,
we still have the double counting system. So
I see.
all the this type of feedstocks count double.
Mm,
In the future, the EU want to change the system to GHG reduction system, and the double counting will disappear.
okay.
If the new RED 3, the new Renewable Energy Directive 3, that we call it this way, because
Mm-hmm.
is the extension of the RED 2,
Mm-hmm.
is approved, which is supposedly to be the case because the three institutions of the European Union agree with that to end up with the double counting system. So the
Mm,
Parliament,
okay.
the Council, and the Commission, the three in the trialogue, they agree to end up with this double counting.
Ah, yeah.
So we will have
So,
a system of GHG reduction,
mm-hmm.
and obviously UCO reduces more greenhouse gases than uh, virgin oils. So there will be an incentive to
Mm,
use more
advanced.
advanced feedstocks.
I see. I see. Speaking about um, the advanced feedstock, and I know you are involved in the vegetable oil and fats business for more than 3 decades. So you may
Mhm.
be, I'm sure you are familiar with the waste from the refining vegetable oils. I understand actually now waste from palm oil refining, for example, palm fatty acid distillate or palm acid oil, are also gaining more popularity to be used as biodiesel feedstock or even renewable diesel feedstock.
Yeah.
Do you see that also happen from, the waste from other vegetable oil refining process, for example, soy oil, or
Mm.
do you see that also the industry can use it? The
Yes.
soy oil fat. I mean, I don't know the name of that of the
Yeah.
waste of
Acid
from
oils. We
others.
call it, mainly acid oils. Well, you have two
Okay.
types. No, you have the acid oils coming from the chemical refining, and you have the fatty acids coming from physical refining. No? But um, yeah, the industry uses already these uh, byproducts. Let's call it.
Mm.
It's not a byproduct anymore because it's sometimes it could be very similar in price to the virgin oil. No, but
Yeah.
yes, the market is already using them and widely, and they will continue to
Mm.
using them. Yeah,
But it's still not sufficient.
no,
I mean, combining with the UCO and then all those wastes will not be sufficient
no,
in your opinion. No.
no. In my opinion, there will be a big fight for feedstocks because yeah, the demand will be huge in the
Mm.
future, according to the mandates. So we will
Mm.
see in the future whether we are able to be more efficient in the collection of UCO or
Mm.
in the production of animal products, wastes and residues.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Whether we will be able to convert more, again, wastes and residues into feedstocks for
Yeah.
biofuel. Maybe other technologies that allow other type of wastes and residues to be processed into biodiesel.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
future will say, but I mean, we have about 30 years. Uh, we are 30 years ahead of 2050, or less than 30 years. But
Mm.
I guess that in the next 30 years, the people will be able to be more efficient and more uh, and produce sufficiently uh, products or feedstocks for this industry. But at the moment, I am very skeptical on
Ah.
that, and I think it's going to be tough to get
Yeah.
enough feedstocks.
Yeah. It's getting more interesting actually. The discussion between feedstock and then, as typically some of the countries or government or industry mandating it without realizing or without further understanding whether the feedstock will be available or not. That's sometimes that's the case, or most of the time actually that's the case. So this discussion is getting more interesting actually. Unfortunately, we ran out of time. So, Mr. Olivero, it is really wonderful to discuss this with an expert like you. So, I
Oh,
really thank you for your sharing your insights with us. And I think as we continue our efforts to decarbonize, the race to find more feedstock, I mean, sustainable feedstocks, and then the race to have a breakthrough technology to meet biofuel demands will be intensified in the next few years. So, indeed, I think we are living in the interesting time, actually, to see all those changes. So, thank you for joining SGS Inspires podcast series. We'll be back with more intriguing topics and let's keep inspiring.
okay. Well, again, thank you very much for inviting me to this speech and or this interview. And I hope I gave you the answers the market is expecting to have. It's going to be very complicated to comply with the market expectations. But we are here in our refinery of Huelva in Spain. We are trying to process as much as we can wastes and residues, and also vegetable fats. Why not? And animal fats to this sector, which we consider a sector of the future, because obviously we think that the petroleum industry is addressing this renewable energy topic deeply, and we are here to help.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
You too.